Hello everyone, welcome once again to Brandeo Collection. Today I thought it would be great to do another collection room update tour going through what we currently have still in our Hot Toys and 1/6 scale collection. So what we're going to do is we're going to do things a little bit different than our previous collection room tours, and we're going to start with a different shelf than what we normally do. Right now you're seeing the Detolf shelves, and instead of starting there, we're actually going to jump over and start with our Star Wars shelf that is on the left side of the room. Before we jump into things, remember to like this video, subscribe to our channel, hit that bell notification to be notified when we post new videos. So let's jump in and take a look at the figures here on the Star Wars shelf. Now, the Star Wars shelf is laid out in chronological order, starting with the prequel films on the far left side. So you have Darth Maul, Qui-Gon Jinn starting off with Star Wars Episode 1. Then we move into Episode 2 with Count Dooku and Jango Fett. Then we actually jump over, we have a bit of a gap for some future figures, and then we jump right over to Rogue One, a Star Wars story, which is our lead-in to the original trilogy. We have a couple different figures from Rogue One here, some of my personal favorites in the collection. And then as we move into the original trilogy, we start with the original film, Star Wars, or A New Hope. We have C-3PO, the Sideshow Collectibles version. We have R2-D2, Han Solo, Chewbacca. We have Obi-Wan and Luke and Leia, Tarkin. We have Darth Vader. We have one of the original Hot Toys Stormtroopers. And these are all the original figures that Hot Toys put out when they first initially got the Star Wars license. Then we move our way into the end of the original trilogy with Return the Jedi, Boba Fett there in the back. We have the Emperor, we have the first version of Luke from Return the Jedi, and then we have Leia and Wicket from Return of the Jedi as well. Now, as we make our way to the other side of the room, that's when you'll start seeing the Empire Strikes Back figures that are missing from this shelf. So making our way over to the Detolf cases now, what we'll do is we'll start at the case that's on the far right side of the wall, and we'll start at the top shelf and work our way down to the bottom shelf as we go through each individual case. And the first shelf at the top of the far right Detolf is our Mandalorian Season 1 shelf. So we have the Durasteel version of Mando here. He's also being presented with one of the Grogus that comes with the first version of the Beskar Deluxe set of Mando. And then behind them we have IG-11 there. And we also have a nice plaque right in the front, signed by one of the actors that portrays the Mandalorian, Brendan Wayne. Moving on to the shelf right below and continuing with the Mandalorian, we have the representation of a mix of Season 2 and 3 of the show. We have Bo-Katan there, which is the Season 2 version of the figure, but with some custom parts. She has a special shoulder plate that is her look from Season 3. She's holding onto the Darksaber to represent her scenes in Season 3. We also have the first version of Beskar Mando there on the right side with a custom Beskar staff that I got off of Etsy, along with some other custom pieces there instead of purchasing a whole completely new figure. Of course, Grogu is there with him as well. Then in the back, we have Ahsoka Tano from Season 2 of The Mandalorian. This is a figure, actually, I got her in. I absolutely fell in love with the figure, but just haven't gotten around to doing a overview video for the channel. So if anybody's interested in seeing an overview of this figure, I'd be happy to put that together. Let me know in the comments below if you're interested. And then also there, we have the repaint armor version of Boba Fett, another one of the fantastic figures in the Star Wars collection, one of my personal favorites ever since it entered the collection. Continuing with Star Wars, but moving away from The Mandalorian, we actually make our way into the sequel trilogy, specifically The Force Awakens. We have the representation of Finn from The Force Awakens. We have the first version of Rey from that movie as well. Then we have Kylo Ren in the back right corner. And we also have BB-8. That BB-8 in the front is actually the Last Jedi version of this figure that came in a 2-pack with another droid. But it works right here in this representation of my personal favorite of the sequel trilogy films. And then the final shelf of this particular case, we have some more sequel trilogy representation. We have the Last Jedi version of Kylo Ren. The base that he's standing on is actually signed by the actor Adam Driver. Then to the right of him, we have Last Jedi version of Rey. Behind the Last Jedi version of Rey, we have Rey also from The Rise of Skywalker with her lightsaber from the end of the film. And then behind Kylo Ren, we have a First Order Stormtrooper from The Force Awakens. Now moving on to the middle DTOF shelf here on this long wall. At the top we have some of our Marvel figures as we move into the Marvel stuff. We have the Endgame version of Captain America, right front and center. To the right side of him we have the integrated suit of Spider-Man from Spider-Man No Way Home. Just waiting for the Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield figures that I have on order to join him in a display once all three of them are together. And then on the far left side, we have Black Widow from Endgame, the only Black Widow figure that is still in my collection. Moving down to the second shelf of this middle DTOF, we have our Spider-Man collection. You'll notice that Spider-Man is the character I have the most representation of. That's just because he is my all-time favorite character. We have many different versions here. We have the homemade suit. This is the one specifically from Far From Home, from the dream sequence. We also have the suit from the first Tom Holland film, from Spider-Man Homecoming. And then in the back, we have a couple figures from the PlayStation 4 video games. We have Miles Morales from the PlayStation 4 game. We also have the Spider-Man 2099 suit from the video game, and the Ben Reilly Scarlet Spider suit as well, and some other little Legos and Funko Pop stuff there to represent my personal favorite comic book character. On the next shelf right below Spider-Man is actually our Empire Strikes Back figures, the ones that were missing from the Star Wars shelf. So Empire Strikes Back is my personal favorite all-time Star Wars film, so I wanted to represent it and have it presented in an even more direct fashion than any other Star Wars figure in the collection. And so here we have the Empire version of Darth Vader, the best version of Darth Vader in my personal opinion that's been released to this date at least. Then we also have Yoda from Empire Strikes Back. We have the Snowspeeder version of Luke Skywalker, and we have a Sideshow Collectibles Snowtrooper there right behind Darth Vader. Then on the final shelf of this middle DTOF, we have our Jazz Inc. diorama of the Hoth base hallway from Empire Strikes Back. And we have Princess Leia there front and center, the Empire Strikes Back version of that figure made by Hot Toys. My personal favorite look of Princess Leia in all of these Star Wars films, actually. Now moving over to the final DTOF on this wall at least, we have our Wakanda display from Avengers Infinity War. Not much has really changed. They've been in these same poses for the last couple videos, but that's just because this looks awesome no matter how many times I look at it. And we have, of course, Infinity War version of Steve Rogers, Captain America front and center. We have Black Panther. This is actually the version from the Solo film. Then we have Bucky there on the left side. And then in the back, of course, we have Thor with his lightning from his arrival on Wakanda in Avengers Infinity War. And with a nice little backdrop of Wakanda as well in the back of the DTOF. Moving down to the next shelf, we kind of have a miscellaneous MCU shelf here, starting off with the die-cast version of the Mark VII from the first Avengers film, my personal favorite of all of the Iron Man suits from the MCU, so of course that is the only Iron Man I still have left in my collection because of that. Next to him, we have the Iron Spider from Avengers Infinity War, but he of course used it also in Far From Home and also No Way Home a little bit. And then to connect a little bit to No Way Home, we have Doctor Strange there in the back. This is the one actually from his first solo film, which as of this recording at least, I think is the best Doctor Strange that Hot Toys has made to date, but we'll see once that official Multiverse of Madness figure has actually been released. Jumping back to Star Wars for the last time at least, we have another film that was not represented on the shelf, but that's because I put it here front and center in the DTOVs, and that is Revenge of the Sith with a little bit of Clone Wars mixed in. We have the original Anakin Skywalker figure here, but he actually has the dark side Anakin head sculpt on, which I purchased separately so that I can just swap out head sculpts when I feel like it instead of purchasing a whole brand new separate figure. So that's what he has right now, is the dark side head sculpt. And then in the middle we have Captain Rex from the Clone Wars with his helmet off, and then we have Obi-Wan Kenobi from episode 3 as well. I love this setup of the three of them, and I had to put them front and center with the lighting and everything in a DTOF compared to having it up on the shelf. And the final shelf of this DTOF case, we have our Back to the Future display. We of course have the Hot Toys Marty McFly. This is actually the original version of the Hot Toys Marty McFly. And then the big piece that's right next to him is the box for the figure that is signed by pretty much the entire original cast of the first Back to the Future film, including of course Michael J. Fox and Christopher Lloyd, plus a lot of others on here. The only one missing is Crispin Glover, just because he's very weird with signing Back to the Future stuff, but I think this is pretty complete, and I see this as being one of the biggest centerpiece pieces of my entire collection. We are now on the final DTOF and the final group of 1/6 scale figures in our collection. If you enjoyed this video so far, please remember to like it, subscribe to our channel, hit that bell notification to be notified when we post new videos. We have great things just like this, plus a lot of other types of collection discussions, including autographs and much, much more. But let's talk about the piece that's right at the top of the DTOF here, which is our Ed 209 from the original RoboCop film. This is the 2.0, or the second version that Hot Toys did of this figure. I love it. He takes up a lot of space, which is why he's up at the top. He is starting to flake on his rubber top there after having this figure for almost 10 years, but I still love it as much as I love that first RoboCop film. The first shelf here inside the case, we have a representation of my personal favorite actor, Johnny Depp. Now, the poses are exactly the same as the last collection video we did with everyone, but I just love the way it looks, so I've kind of just left it that way for now. But we have Sweeney Todd from the Tim Burton film. We have Captain Jack Sparrow. This is the one from On Stranger Tides. Then we have Ichabod Crane from the Tim Burton Sleepy Hollow film in the top left, which is a film I absolutely love and doesn't get as much love as I think it deserves. And then we have him as Grindelwald from the second Fantastic Beast film. The next shelf is just a random collection of characters that didn't really fit on any other collection of shelf here. So we have the diecast version of RoboCop, the second version of the figure that came out the same time as the Ed 209 I showed you earlier. Then we have David Tennant as the 10th Doctor, the only Doctor Who figure I still have remaining in my personal collection. Then in the back we have the T-800 from Terminator 2, specifically the battle damage version, which is a figure I think is in the top 10 of figures that Hot Toys has ever made, even to this date. And then in the back right corner, we have King Leonidas from 300, which is the first ever Hot Toys figure that I ever got into my collection. It's a figure I got as a gift, but it's still here in the collection just because it is my first figure ever that started this whole collection, and it is the one that has that sentimental value. Continuing to move down, we have a shelf that actually is taken up only by one figure, which is Pennywise from Chapter 2 of the It films. Now, Hot Toys doesn't really do figures from horror films, so I love the It films, especially the first movie. And when Hot Toys announced that they were doing a figure of Pennywise, I had to jump on that just because I love horror films, and it's very rare to find someone that does those figures in such a high quality. So I love this figure. I love the accessories it comes with, and it's amazingly posable. And I just have it right now with the balloon. We have the sewer display there with a second head sculpt that you can have displayed in the sewer. It just looks fantastic, and that's why he's the only figure in the collection that gets a whole shelf just to himself. And then we come to the final shelf that we're going to talk about today in the video, and that is our horror movie shelf. We have some of my all-time favorite horror movie characters here. My personal favorite being Freddy Krueger there on the right side. Then we have the Nun from the Conjuring films and those spin-offs. In the back center, we have Ghostface from the Scream films. To the right of him, we have a custom Jason Voorhees that I personally put together, just a hodgepodge of different figures, and I did some tests of painting and weathering on this character just to make my own version of Jason. And then on the left side of Ghostface, we have Michael Myers. This is specifically Michael Myers from the original Halloween film, this one made by Trick or Treat Studios, whereas the other ones are kind of a mix of some other third-party studios and Sideshow Collectibles. Thank you so much for taking some time to walk through with us the current figures we have in our Hot Toys and 1/6 scale collection. If you enjoyed today's video, please remember to like it, subscribe to our channel, hit that bell notification to be notified when we post new videos. If you have any suggestions or you have any comments, please comment below. We love to hear from you, and keep a lookout on some great videos coming in the very near future when it comes to all different types of pop culture collectibles. Not just 1/6 scale figures, but also our massive autograph collection as we talk about collecting autographs, new pieces in the collection, and much, much more. Thank you once again for watching, and as always, keep on collecting.